guess to say, sadly, Dominic seems to be running a bit late, so I'm introducing today's topic. We're going to be going over conspiracy theories. If you guys have any conspiracies that you want to bring up or just chit chat about that, that's what today's topic is. And thank y'all for coming. Yeah.
Okay, for those who are either newcomers to our CrossRoads discussion or did not know we were going to be doing this here, we do this every Wednesday at noon. And everybody is welcome. Again, whether you intended to be here for this or not, you are certainly welcome to be here and to participate. And after a few minutes, I will be passing around an attendance sheet. I'll be passing around an attendance sheet, and you can put your name on there if you want to document your attendance. If you put a faculty name next to your name, I will contact that faculty and let them know you were here. I will show them the attendance sheet. Can't guarantee that they'll do anything about it, but if you want to bug them for extra credit, at the very least, we can document that you were here. Okay? For anybody who may be watching this, we're dealing with a handheld camera today, so excuse the shakiness. So we're talking about conspiracy theories, and we've done this a couple of times before, just to give you a little historical background on our group. We've done this a couple of times before, and at least the first time, I remember, it was sort of the topic was sort of, what's your favorite conspiracy theory? And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. People are going to talk about all sorts of crazy things, and it'll be a laugh. And a lot of people had these very serious ideas about conspiracy theories. It really kind of threw me for a loop. So I don't know how it's going to turn out today, but what are your favorite conspiracy theories? What are the conspiracy theories you think are most interesting? What are the conspiracy theories you think they're really out there? Maybe even the most plausible ones. What do you think?
That aliens built the pyramids.
That who built? Oh, that aliens did?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Is it okay if I sort of elaborate? Because I have the same.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ancient aliens. Come on, it's a classic one. You see it everywhere all the time. You see it references in science fiction. You might have like a Star Trek or something joke about time travel. Oh, they built the pyramids, blah, blah. And it's interesting for a number of reasons. First of which is that it reveals a lot of the underlying tensions inherent to a lot of conspiracy theories. Because when talking about them, oftentimes it can be jocular, it can be fun, but it's important to recognize that a lot of these conspiracy theories are founded on some sketchy beliefs, and that's really evident when it comes to ancient aliens. For example, it sort of presupposes the fact that ancient peoples, especially those in Africa, Egyptians, weren't advanced enough or were inherently incapable of completing such feats. And you see that in other such conspiracy theories, like, oh, there's no way they could have done that, so it must have been something else. And then sort of building onto that, it's also a sort of nice fun thing because when talking about it and sort of debunking it, you get to really think and find out about all the ingenious ways that ancient peoples navigated complex issues, which is really fascinating.
To kind of go off that, I always heard the joke of everybody always questioned the Egyptian pyramids, and everybody questioned the ones in Mexico. Because nobody questions the Mexican being able to build it again.
So is there a jealousy aspect there that the Egyptians get all the publicity?
There's a pride in our building.
Okay, all right. What else is there? What other things have you come across?
I think one of my favorite ones in terms of silliness is the moon landing conspiracy. Specifically that Stanley Kubrick directed it. Because of
That the moon wasn't there a movie that came out recently, just recently, about the idea that the whole moon landing was fake?
One with like Channing Tatum and
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I think it's kind of funny how we have this conspiracy about like, oh no, I guess it also ties into like flat Earth and whatnot, I assume, but it's a very, so you can kind of understand because like, 2001 is, the 2001 Space Odyssey came out like, what, 2 years prior to the first moon landing?
It came out in 1968, and the first one was the summer of 1969. So, yeah, a little. I don't know when in '68 it came out, but about a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, I do think that the idea of crew directing the moon landing is just a funny thought, because the whole wires and whatnot. But yeah, it's a weird one because it ties into another conspiracy because it's just like. It doesn't make any sense. Why you would doubt something like that? Yeah, it's a favorite one.
Okay. Were you going to add something? No? Okay. What other ones are there? Yeah.
I kind of have two, both related to like just celebrity culture, or just like how it impacts our society too. I think that especially recently, I've seen a lot of like what I would call like industry plants, or like someone that just gets like super famous out of nowhere. Maybe they're not even like the most talented or like maybe it's not something people would normally gravitate to, but then all of a sudden these people just like blow up overnight. And I definitely don't want to use the word like Illuminati because I think that's maybe taking it a little far, but I do think there's definitely like, you could say that maybe people like sell their souls or like kind of give up other parts of their lives just to like be famous or like achieve that.
Can you think of any specific celebrities or?
As of recent, like a couple I've seen blow up out of nowhere, be like Chapel Roan or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a lot of examples. I'm just like blanking, I don't know.
Okay. Others? What do you think about this? I mean, where do these things come from? I know you mentioned before that there's usually a grain of truth buried in there somewhere, sort of as a foundation for creating a whole fantastic structure. There was a moon landing, or there was something that was broadcast out to the public, and there are these celebrities that seem to rise to fame, and sometimes a lot of people wonder why they're so famous. And even something like the pyramids, it seems, the amount of labor that it might have taken to actually build them, at least on first blush, without any deeper exploration, would seem to be overwhelming. So sometimes I think these are very sort of easy explanations. It's easier to believe in a conspiracy theory than to actually try to explain all the details. All right. Are there others? And have you seen have you seen conspiracy theories sort of develop and maybe eventually fall apart? I don't know. Have you seen them progress one way or another? Yeah.
Actually, like speaking of conspiracy theories, like in terms of progression, flat Earth used to be a big conspiracy theory, but it kind of like morphed and changed, and like pretty much everyone that believed flat Earth moved to QAnon because the main like motivating factor behind the belief of flat Earth is mainly like evangelical in nature. So like the more convenient like conspiracy theory kind of just won out, and they like moved on to that for like their like kind of like biblical explanation for the world.
Can you explain for us what QAnon is?
Okay.
Just briefly. You don't have to go into great detail.
So
But
QAnon is basically there's this like unidentified like insider government agent guy.
Right,
who's
yeah.
Q, who makes these anonymous posts. It's the anon part, and basically they believe that like Democrats are like Satanists, and they take adrenochrome out of children to like drink for like youth and power or whatever, which is not working because they're old as hell. But and basically, it gets pretty violent in some cases, because like I mean, some people believe in like the storm, where basically like the day of retribution against all of the people they hate or whatever happens, and that's basically just a mass like death arrest event. So that's pretty much QAnon.
And QAnon actually was an outgrowth of I don't know if it's quite an incident, but an earlier conspiracy theory known as Pizzagate, right? Which was this pizzeria restaurant or something like that in Washington, D.C., is it?
Yeah, they said like Democrats like traffic children.
Yeah, in the basement of this place. And it turned out there is no basement in there at all. But it actually led to somebody traveling from far away, I forget where, all the way to Washington, D.C., with weapons. He was arrested, and he said he had heard about this and he wanted to see what was going on and he wanted to see if he could do something. So these things actually do have real world effects.
And I mean, there was a father who basically abducted his own children, and like he was like traveling like 100 down like the highway, like running away from the police because he thought like there was like the deep state conspiracy to get his children. I think he crashed the car and they all died. So I mean, also like in terms of conspiracy theories as well. A Trump supporter drove into the FBI building and he tried to get in. I think he used a nail gun or whatever to try and break past the bulletproof glass. Didn't work. And he fled and I think he died in a cornfield with a shootout with the FBI. So it's if you believe these things, right? If you believe if you truly believe that there is this satanic conspiracy and children are actually being mass killed, it's kind of what else are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? It's kind of the call to action. You got to save these kids or whatever. If you actually believe this, you are going to take these horrible actions because you think it's justified.
That's exactly it. If you become convinced of these things, you may be willing to take some drastic measures.
I just want to expand upon that. This idea of evangelicals thinking that Democrats are eating children that are Satanists and whatnot is not new at all. And in fact, it goes back to the 30s where they thought that FDR was the Antichrist because around the 30s it's during the time of the Third Awakening where new sort of evangelical movement, instead of Adventist and Doomsday sort of Christian cults were forming during this time. And they literally, they actually thought that FDR was going to bring that he was the Antichrist, or at least was related to it, that he was going to bring the end of the world. And they thought that him, I think it was during the 30s, they thought that him having his new dealers were the start, the mark of the beast, and that he was going to have America become a socialist dictatorship. So this idea of evangelicals getting extremely fearful of Democratic policy or Democratic presidents is not new at all, and it's been around for, as far as I know, since the 30s, for a very long time. So, but yeah, it's fascinating how.
Yeah, well, there have been conspiracy theories going back, I'm sure, as long as civilization has existed, but there are definitely others that have popped up from time to time to I suppose try and explain various phenomena, to try and make a point, to try and establish a political point, and all sorts of things. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the main difference now, obviously, is the internet, where I think it's now millions of people believe this QAnon conspiracy theory. I mean, the Trump crowd, it's hard to actually pick someone out that probably doesn't believe in most, if not all, of that conspiracy theory or some related conspiracy theory offshoot.
And we know that false information spreads far faster than true information.
I was going to say that with FDR, the reason why it became so popular is because of the advent of the radio and prosperity gospel through Billy Graham, that type of person who speaks on the radio or speaks on TV. And yet the rise of media and mass media getting across the whole national country was a big factor in spreading the sort of conspiracy theory of FDR being the Antichrist.
Okay, do you want to add something?
Yeah, and sort of tying all this into something you just mentioned, something you mentioned more near the beginning, is that conspiracy theories are interesting in that they sort of serve as an explanatory framework. Not necessarily a good one, but as one nonetheless. And so for me, the most obvious example of this would be probably UFOs, where we could debate all day about whether aliens are real, whether people have actually seen flying saucers, but the fact of the matter is that there are unidentified aerial phenomena. The government has said as such. There have been multiple accounts firsthand attesting to such experiences. And so it's really, I mean, with such a dearth of facts, it's really hard to make heads or tails of it. And so it makes sense that people would sort of gravitate toward these explanations. So you sort of live in a world where they can explain these things.
Okay.
Well, conspiracy theories are used as a tool for people to, I guess, feel better about some things. And the best example I can give is the Trump election conspiracy theory that led to January 6th and a bunch of other things after that. I mean, Trump said that he won the election in a landslide, which just was not the case. But he had such a tight grasp on his people, the people that support him, that they went to the Capitol and stormed it and threatened to hang Mike Pence and kill other Democratic politicians and all of that based on somebody's word. That just is just a conspiracy theory. And the fact that conspiracy theories have such a tight grip on American politics right now is a huge issue.
So you think it's easier to start conspiracy theories
Absolutely.
now?
Absolutely.
Okay. And maybe that's fostered by media growth?
I mean, people believe what their favorite politicians are going to say nowadays, more than anything. People aren't voting based on policy anymore. They're voting on this politician is who I like the most.
Okay. Do you want to add?
Well, just on that, I definitely agree. Like, it tends to, like, people are really rash in their decisions and they follow really fast, especially on social media. Like, you can see, like, there's, like, a very, like, push, especially on social media platforms showing, like, negative things, and it's, like, pushing more people towards negative and negative. But on a completely, like, different avenue for conspiracy theories, one that made me think that when this topic got brought up, I thought of it was when I was younger, I always heard the conspiracy about that P. Diddy was the one who put the hit out on Tupac, and now that like seems way more applicable with all the stuff in the media going on right now.
Okay. Do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the UFO comparison because honestly, like, you know, with how complicated, like, you know, political developments are and, like, how things happen in the world, like, you know, like, some people, like, you know, like, about, like, the 9/11 conspiracy and, like, all of the, like, you know, the kind of complex geopolitical things that had to happen to, like, bring about that. It's, you know, it's like, it might as well basically be an unidentified object to, like, most people because, you know, the world is so, like, unbelievably complex and there's so many, like, everything's pushing and pulling on each other and, like, affecting each other. So it's like, it makes the world make, especially if you have, like, kind of a very, like, fundamentalist Christian view of, like, you know, kind of like an ordered, like, you know, like divine, like, ordered world or whatever. It makes sense for things to kind of be a little more, like, fit into, like, the kind of evil and, like, good, you know, good versus evil, like, dynamic and, like, the shadow versus the light kind of thing, rather than kind of acknowledge that, like, you know, like, in the 70s, like, you know, politicians, like, made, like, a bad, like, bureaucratic move and now, like, we're here, you know, it's, you know, which is a little more of, like, a kind of a gray area and, like, a little more complex and harder to understand and grasp and, like, you know, blame, like, one person for doing it. But, you know, like, you know, it's just not how the world works, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask a question about conspiracy theories, but before I do, I also want to note that we do have a viewer that mentions, and I don't know if any of you want to pick up on this, but just mentions Alex Jones and InfoWars, who is basically a conspiracy theory generating machine, I suppose. Did you want to?
Yeah, and Alex Jones is very interesting because Alex Jones, Infowars, and everything in that same sphere did not just pop up out of nowhere. And you've seen it sort of developing in a really interesting way in the last about 100, 200 years. Obviously, first it was through text. You have, for example, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a really racist, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about how Jews are controlling the government in the early 20th century. That's distributed through pamphlets, text. There's a whole book about it. And so inherently, that's going to be a bit more limited because first of all, you have to actually publish the book. You have to distribute it. You have to have people learn about it. There's a lot of different complications. And then later on, in the late 20th century, you see an interesting development where you see these sorts of radio shows. The most prominent example of which would be Coast to Coast AM by Art Bell, which was used to sort of disperse a lot of conspiracy theories in the 80s, 90s. And that's sort of the beginning of the modern conspiracy movement, because then from there you go on to more internet-based instead of radio-based conspiracies, where you have entire websites dedicated to this stuff. And it's interesting to know that Alex Jones got his start on Coast to Coast AM. He got a lot of the skills that he uses in Infowars. He learned, he honed in Coast to Coast AM. And so it's really important to sort of talk about these early developments and how they have impacted the conspiracy movement so that we can better understand and combat it today.
Okay.
I mean, Alex Jones has so many just famous sound bites. And he used to be just like this kook on the internet. Like, chemicals in the water that turn the frogs gay. What is he talking about? That is crazy. But then it went to Sandy Hook with the hoax. And they're all paid crisis actors. And I believe he got sued for that.
Mm-hmm.
Had to pay a bunch of money.
A lot of money, yeah.
But and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he was on stage at a couple of Trump rallies giving speeches to Trump supporters and perpetuating his conspiracy theories. And that just goes back to we're letting these kind of personalities into the process of promoting politicians, and they're just riling up their base. They're riling up people by saying these conspiracy theories. And just one other thing, it didn't start with Alex Jones. I mean, there's a ton of other people, and the one that comes to the top of my head is Rush Limbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
That guy was nuts. That guy was crazy. But, I mean, Alex Jones is more popular.
Okay.
Yeah, piggybacking off your point here, I think what we see now, this is a sort of new topic with people like Alex Jones, lives with TikTok, and other right-wing social media sort of types, is that we see this rise of, I believe it's called stochastic terrorism.
Stochastic, yeah.
And this is like a new topic where we have these loud and commanding kooks, who are making their fan base, calling bomb threats at, children's hospitals like in Boston because of some, out of context video on TikTok, or, it went from only a few people listen to, these Alex Jones or Digital TikTok, and if people, listen to Rush Limbaugh, they listen to him because he's for entertainment purposes, and they weren't going to cause harm because of it, but because of these conspiracy theories gaining more traction, becoming more popular, and even having a former president spouse them out. I mean, that's a big deal. I don't think we've seen an authority figure as big as Trump reaffirm conspiracy theories to where they're causing a lot of harm, and a lot of people are getting harmed by it. With school. I mean, there's the Haitians eating cats and dogs, where you have these legal immigrants who moved to Springfield because Springfield wanted them to revitalize their economy, and now they're getting hate crime, getting their car doors their cars vandalized because people bought into a racist conspiracy theory due to the sort of nativism, immigrant sort of crisis that we're seeing. So I mean, we're seeing like a rise in actual harm in these conspiracy theories, and it's very scary. And also, a lot of people debate this on free speech, but in my opinion, you can't go to a theater and you can't go to a crowded theater and yell fire, because that's going to result in people getting harmed, and you have to be held accountable for that. And this is what I see with these people. They need to be held accountable. They can't just hide behind their free speech because they're violating other people's, rights as, being, healthy and not getting harassed. So, yeah, it's a really big issue nowadays.
Okay, Tyler?
And I mean, it's hurting people, right? They're making like a killing off of selling because Alex Jones is pretty infamous for this, where you don't see it because most people's interaction with Alex Jones is they see the clips or the rants or whatever. But if you unpause those rants and then go a little further, he immediately switches to ad mode, where he advertises his supplements. He advertises his the turning the frogs gay thing. He turned that into an advertisement for his drinking straw that does the filter survival straw thing or whatever. And
So he's using it as a marketing tool.
It's kind of like a self-selecting marketing thing, it's like how Nigerian scammers intentionally put misspell the email so that, hey, if you didn't notice that, you're more likely to actually buy into the scam. But if you are smart enough to realize that this is obviously a scam, you'll back off. They don't want to waste their time with you anyways. They're not going to get you. And I mean, that's kind of what happens with conspiracy theories. If you're kind of gullible enough, if you have the kind of mindset that's going to allow yourself to get tricked by kind of such obvious misinformation, you're kind of self-selecting to be a very impressionable group, So, Alex Jones gets to wear all these fancy watches and have all these nice suits because he's able to sell brain force to people, and that's going to increase their mental acuity somehow. And it's just, and even more modern networks like Fox News. Fox News is the biggest network in America, and they make a killing spreading fear mongering on their just mainstream media all the time. And so there's there's gaining political capital by kind of energizing your base, but also there's just the straight financial benefits of you're getting this self-selecting group that will just keep coming back over and over again because you've made it to where they can't trust anyone else except you, and you have all these great products that'll help them out in their day-to-day life.
Okay, we have over here. You want to?
I do agree with what a lot of y'all are saying about it's very easy for a political party to get their following to believe something that isn't true, or maybe just because it's easier to believe. But to be honest, I'm hearing a lot of Trump, Fox, and I think it would be a little silly to sit here and think that only one party is doing that. Dogs and cats thing is crazy. Not gonna sit here and defend that, but we could talk about during the same debate, Kamala saying that Trump supports Project 2025 when he's spoken out so many times and says that he doesn't. Not even referring to the contents of it, but how many times can he say that he doesn't support it, and people will continue to sit online and spread that information. But it definitely goes both ways.
Okay.
And I think a related aspect, related to what you were talking about, what he was talking about, is that we must acknowledge the fact that everyone is vulnerable to conspiracy theories. I have a bit of a weird hobby. I like to go online and collect STEM freaks, because within STEM you sort of have this pervasive attitude that you're a purveyor of rationality, that you're a pillar who knows all, that you're objective, blah blah. When in reality, all STEM people are people are human, humans are vulnerable. And so occasionally online, I see these STEM freaks, people who are well educated in some field, whether it be physics or mathematics or engineering, but just have the most bizarre and insane beliefs. I've seen a high school math teacher who believes in QAnon. I've seen a aviation engineer who thinks that NASA doesn't know how flight works. I've seen I've seen a Cornell mathematician who thinks that the Boston Marathon bombing was planned, and as was 9/11. And so it's very important to acknowledge the fact that regardless of how quote-unquote intelligent you are, of how much you think you know about something, anyone is vulnerable to these insidious beliefs because they don't target you for your rationality, they target you for your emotional vulnerability. They pull at your emotional heartstrings.
Okay, do you want to add something?
I don't want to keep piling on the guy. the one, like the first conspiracy theory I remember that was like pretty popular in right-wing media, left-wing media, just media in general, was the birther conspiracy.
Okay.
That Obama was born in Kenya and wasn't actually an American citizen, so he can't run for president. And the person who promoted that, either the most or at least a lot, was Donald Trump. And this was was it 2008 when it started?
Yeah, when he was first running for president.
And it's kind of transferred over to Kamala Harris, and people are talking about how she's, not from America. Her parents aren't from America. She can't run, or she's not black, or she's not Indian, or she's not whatever. And it's just a lie that's firing up his base and getting them to believe in things that aren't necessarily true.
Okay, do you want?
I think that kind of goes back to the vulnerability too. I mean, what are people supposed to think when you see Kamala talking about her Indian heritage and pictures of her with, I don't know the proper term for it, but the dot that goes like in the middle of your head, like you see pictures of her like that as a child, with her family, and it's like, it's really easy, I think, to believe both ways.
Okay, yeah.
Well, despite the fact that I guess like Kamala Harris is a black father and an Indian mother, I guess, but which is possible. There's been interracial couplings before. And Obama's actually he's like half black, half white. Actually, you know what I mean. But he looks black, so he's full black because that's how America works. But the thing about I don't know, like saying like Republicans and Democrats are equal on this, it's just like, they just aren't though. It's the different like ideological motivations. If you're like just a standard like neoliberal, you don't really need to believe in like conspiracy theories to kind of validate your worldview. You know what I mean? We already live in like the kind of like post Cold War like neoliberal era. You don't really need like any like conspiracy theories to explain the way the world is. You know what I mean? Under the current operations, but like, if you're trying to do like some kind of great awakening, like go back, or have all these, if you're a Christian nationalist, right? You're clearly trying to change the way America's working, right? So you're going to need all that kind of changing. And it's just, like people like to say like, oh, Democrats with like the Russia hoax. First of all, people actually got arrested because of the Mueller investigation. So oops, I guess some people actually did do that because they did get arrested. So oops. But maybe Trump didn't, but like some people did. So I guess it wasn't like complete misguided hysteria. And especially like the Project 2025 thing. J.D. Vance wrote the foreword for Project 2025, and then oddly he was chosen to be the vice president. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, I wonder why that happened. And I think like we also have to acknowledge like just conventional wisdom. Politicians don't typically they don't always tell the exact truth. If something's optically horrendously damaging, they're obviously going to be like, I didn't do that. Even looking at like North Carolina governor candidate, he got caught with some very, very bad things on a foreign form of all places. And, obviously he's just like, I didn't do that. I didn't, that's not what I did. Because, like, of course you're going to do. What else are you going to do? You're going to say, yeah, I did that. I called myself a black Nazi. That's 100% me. I did it. I'm sorry. Like, no, you're going to say, I didn't do that. That's not me, even though that evidence is irrefutable. So, like, that's just the thing. You know, I don't like doing the two parties are exactly the same kind of thing, because they aren't. You know what I mean? Maybe like in the 90s, you could have said like Republicans and Democrats like were basically like, you know, like, oh, you know, conservative policy, maybe they want to cut programs and stuff, but this ain't your granddad's, you know, Republican Party. You know, I mean, some would argue that it is, but like, you know, they've really moved on to like they really piled on and moved on to the conspiracy theories now, and they're like trying to, you know, they really adopted the evangelicals like wholeheartedly because they're afraid of getting primaried, and you know, now they're like trying to push for national abortion bans, or you know, trying to do all that, and you know, obviously that's optically damaging to push for a full abortion ban, because whenever it comes up to the people, they overwhelmingly vote to put it in their constitutions. But you know.
All right, I have a quick question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to my own question, but I want to ask it anyway, and that is, why are these things always bad? Why aren't there conspiracy theories that, I don't know, the government's about to give all of us $10,000 each, or some other good thing? Why are they always bad? I mean, again, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to it, but why is that the case?
I don't know that they're always bad. Like, one of the ones that came up in my mind earlier was like Mandela effect. Just thinking that like things are happening in different ways and disagreeing. Like, I think the main one that I remember was like, I don't know if y'all ever read the children's book Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears. Yeah, I swear it was spelled that way.
Yeah.
So there's like ones like that, like there's silly ones. I just feel like, especially with the new age and social media, so many things that are negative just gets like pushed forward and forward. And I think even that with the parties and stuff, I don't think a lot of people that claim to either be Republican or Democrat or like advanced in-depth conspiracy theorists. I think it's just the ones that are have a very loud voice.
Okay. All right. Did you want to answer that?
I mean, I wouldn't say that there are definitely bad conspiracy theories. There are neutral ones, there's silly ones like the one she just said, but there's never good ones. There's never like you said, that the government's going to give us all $10,000. That'd be great. You guys want $10,000? Because I know I do. But the problem is, if there were good conspiracy theories, it wouldn't fire people up as much, and it wouldn't get people as politically involved. Because for example, my oldest brother is a Trumpy to the core, okay? And he loves the guy, and he supports him no matter what. But 2016, he didn't care about politics at all. But once Trump was in office and more conspiracy theories started getting more traction and more popular, he was like, well, you know, I want to start voting, and the only people I align with is Trump, because these conspiracy theories are making the Democrats or other politicians look bad. It's not just Democrats, it's you know, the anti-Trump Republicans and people not even in politics, but they're making people look bad, and it's getting Trump more followers, it's getting the Republican Party more followers, because like he said, it's not your grandpa's Republican Party anymore. It's Trump's Republican Party, and we just get to live in it.
Okay. Do you want to add something?
Yeah. Well, people love outrage.
Yeah.
You love gossip. You love getting mad. You love the idea of discovering a mystery and knowing the answer to it. I mean, it's our sort of basic psychological desire of just wanting to having that feeling. I know what's wrong, and I know the answer. Or at least I know who's causing the problem. We don't. There's no mystery. There's no unresolved answers. It's I know what this is, and the media likes to build into that. They like to appeal to our outrage. I mean, you just had a lecture on media and how it appeals to our biases and sort of makes us mad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I mean, the outrage gets traction and it appeals to more people. People like to get mad. It's enjoyable. It's fun. So I mean, it's really what it is. It's the marketplace of ideas where the media is selling you this crazy idea, this crazy conspiracy, and people just eat it up because that's what they want. They want an easy answer. At least one answer that they can feel confident and not have the mistake of him might be wrong. So, yeah.
Okay, do you want to?
Yeah, and sort of adding on to that, because I mean, obviously, there's certainly an emotion aspect to it. Because I mean, that's all we've been talking about that for a few minutes. But there's also it's the confluence of outrage or anger and a sense that someone has insider knowledge, the sense that you've achieved a greater truth, and in that way, you can sort of see a similarity or synchronicity between conspiracy theories and cold thinking. Where for a lot of people may fall into conspiracy theories, not even necessarily because it allows them to feel outraged, but because it gives them a sense, I know something you don't, I'm in on it, I'm smarter than you. And a good example of that would be all the space race conspiracies, especially the moon landing. Like, oh, you truly believe that we landed on the moon, something that like outlandish? Well, clearly you're a sheep. Clearly you're dumber than me. And then you see that also in QAnon, where it sort of took advantage of the fact that people wanted to fend for themselves and for their family, and that's sort of why you have these you have parents, you have adults who have relatives who are infested by QAnon, and the QAnon relatives are trying to like save them. They're saying, "Oh, the country's gonna fall tomorrow. Please just come to my house." Blah blah. It's because it's taking advantage of the fact that they genuinely do believe that they know more, that they have this advantage.
Okay, Anita?
It's something to think of, like, I don't know if you've ever seen any of like the flat earthers testing the theory for flat earth, and then their tests failing, and just like seeing the reaction to that is honestly really funny.
I was just gonna kind of piggyback off what he was saying. It's that sense of going against the status quo.
Okay.
Like somebody wants to be different, and so they're like, "Oh, you think the moon landing happened? You're wrong. Like you're just following what the government tells you. You're a sheep. And it's that kind of thing." And that's just why some of these conspiracy theories are so popular. Because people want to feel like they know something you don't, like he said.
Yeah, and I think part of when I said I think I know the answer to it is that we tend to take negative information more seriously, whether we should or not. We tend to take negative information more seriously than we do positive information. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, so I can't explain that. But there's all sorts of evidence that we do, and I mentioned before that negative information does tend to travel a lot faster. It spreads through the media from person to person a lot faster than or false information spreads a lot faster than true information, largely because false information is usually designed to get our attention, whereas true information may or may not. It may interest us, it may not interest us. Truth is truth. But falsehoods are very often shaped to grab our attention, and often through negative means.
Yeah, and that sort of ties into some fundamental difficulties with truth and falsity, where it's a lot easier to tell a lie in like a few seconds than to debunk that lie, which may take minutes, hours, days.
Yeah, that's actually true. I mean, it's easier to make something up than it is to provide the facts and information to refute that something. That's true. Do we have any closing thoughts on this? Certainly, I think conspiracy theories are going to continue. They're not going to go away anytime soon. But what do you think the future is going to look like? Is it going to get worse because of media?
Well, I think honestly, conspiracy theories are kind of like a little bit of a symptom of despair, where basically people, because I mean, the world isn't right. I mean, things are bad. You know what I mean? Things aren't good, right? So people are frustrated. Like, there is some genuine validity to their frustration with the system, right? Like, the system isn't great. It's not serving the people, But the answers as to why, it's bad, right, are big and complicated,
and like you want to, if the world is going to get better, you know, it's going to require like a dedicated, like decades-long effort to like actually make the world a better place, right? So I mean, you know, in that kind of despair, it's easier to believe like the one simple kind of like good versus evil dynamic battle.
So these are quick and easy ways to make sense of the world that the real explanations wouldn't quite capture. Okay, I think we're going to close on that note. Oh, do you have one more?
Yeah, I would just want to say, next Tuesday, Young Democrats meeting at 5:30 in that room in Young Hall. We're going to be tackling conspiracy theories as well, along with other stuff like how to respectfully debate or support your positions.
Also, please come back for our next meeting next Wednesday.
Okay. Yes, we'll meet here once again on Wednesday, a week from today, assuming we're not all washed away in the floods. Stay safe, stay dry, don't be foolish in the rain that's coming up.
Dude,
Okay.
that monologue you had was great.
You want to?
You just started like you just
know?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what the topic's supposed to be for next week?
I don't know.